Newman Bond, the official podcast of Newman University. I'm Amy Brooks, and today I have Lawna Kurtyka with us. She's the director of Navigator here at Newman, and we're really going to dive into the Navigator student experience, what sets it apart, and kind of the outcomes that students can leave graduated and ready to enter their careers with. So, Lawna, thank you for being on our podcast today.
Thank you for having me.
We're excited to learn more. So, can you tell us an overview of what Navigator is all about?
Sure. So Navigator is part of that first-year college experience in student success. And what we want to do in Navigator is create an experience that helps students transition to the college life, and also over the 4 years that they're here, help them transition into graduate school or the world of work or whatever the next steps are for them. And so the Navigator program just kind of builds on skills from that first semester that they arrive to the semesters that they are ready to graduate.
Awesome. And that really touches on our mission of empowering graduates to transform society. We're helping them transform to become the students they need to be to excel in college, but then also the graduates they need to be to kind of make a difference in the world.
Right. It is. It's a really great experience, I think, for students because it does give them a dedicated support team. So they have instructors that will stay with them for flight planning and liftoff, the first two classes in the Navigator program. So it really gives them a great, stable foundation from which to build their college experience.
That's the best. Having any support you can, especially right at the start, is really important, but having that built-in structure throughout is just going to ease them into whatever may come their way. So that's wonderful. Well, looking at Newman's core values of Catholic identity, academic excellence, that culture of service that we see so often on campus and off, and then global perspective, how does Navigator kind of approach each of these and help students graduate feeling competent in those areas?
Okay. So in the Navigator program, at each level, we try to look at different pieces of that Newman mission. In the first class, the flight planning class, we spend a lot of time talking about vocation and helping students find their purpose, understanding what vocation is outside their traditional understanding of maybe your job or your career. What is your purpose? What is it that you're passionate about? And then after we've done some of that, we work on goal setting, and we help students learn how to set goals and how to attain those goals. So we use the SMART goal formula, and so we try to make sure that they understand that goals need to be measurable, they need to have some time constraints, they need to be achievable, and that way they're really working towards something as they're going through their coursework, and it gives them a direction, and that's really important.
That is absolutely. I love that you brought in purpose because I mean, that's the whole reason that we're here. We each have our own, but then we're also trying to help these students kind of discover theirs. And if they're a first generation college student specifically, that could be an extra obstacle. But having that support system that Navigator provides is a great way to help them kind of transition. So you kind of already spoke to this, but one of my questions was, how does a program like Navigator, why is it so crucial for today's students?
I think that we're seeing students who are coming to us at this point out of the COVID years, and they maybe haven't had the opportunities that students in the past have had to socialize and to be a part of a group, and their educational experiences were disrupted by that. And so anything that we can do to provide those students with those foundational skills of collaboration and understanding their purpose and setting goals and looking towards the future in a collaborative way will only be to their benefit when they get out into the job market with so many jobs, saying we need people who can work together. We need people who can understand a project and understand how to work with a team. And so I think that the Navigator program is really unique in that it does provide some of those skills that maybe students are not coming to college with, because of the situations that we've gone through in the past few years as they were in their maybe middle school and high school experiences.
Absolutely. Those soft skills are even more
Right.
crucial, and yeah, anything to put them at an advantage is great. So what you know from other universities, how does Newman's Navigator program really stand out?
One of the things I think that is truly unique about our program is that it is a series of 4 courses. At a lot of universities, they have an orientation course where a student may go and have a common read with other students and do some common activities, but it's really only for that first semester. And then they work traditionally just with an advisor and move forward that way. Where here at Newman, students get 4 courses that follow them throughout the 4 years that they are here. And in that, we try and build the individualized, personalized services that maybe sometimes at a larger university you wouldn't receive just because of numbers. And because of our size, we're able to do that and really build relationships and build a strong foundation of relationships so that students know that they belong here, that they're part of the family, and that helps build the culture of the university.
Well said, well said. So for each 4 phases, I assume each one is year 1 traditionally, year 2, year 3, year 4. So what kind of gets covered in each of the steps of Navigator?
Great. So the first step is called flight planning, and that is taken by all first-time, full-time, probably traditional students. There are some folks that do not take all of these courses, and we can talk about that later, but the flight planning class is that first step in the program. And in flight planning, like I said, we look at vocation, we look at our mission, we look at their personal mission, we look at what they want to do, why they want to do it. We help them build a 4-year plan for their time here at the university. So not only looking at courses that they can take in their majors, but for some students it's helping them decide on a major. And so then after they've gone through that and they've created a vision board to look to the future, then we go into liftoff, where we really start looking at careers. And so we do a lot of work with resumes. We look at cover letters. We have them go to a career fair. Students get to do job shadowing. Some of that they create themselves with their own contacts, and some of that their advisor and other faculty members and staff members can help them with. And then the third step in the process and in the program is destination check. And at Destination Check, we really start the process of looking forward. We start building an e-portfolio. We look at mentoring. We look at what steps are you going to take beyond Newman. And then in Launch, which is the last course in the program, they present their final e-portfolio. We help them look for internships. We explore graduate school. We explore the world of work. We look at interviewing, both in-person interviewing and visual or virtual interviewing. And so that really is the final step in the program to help students be able to jump out and go on to the next thing.
Wow, I feel like I would have benefited a lot from this program had it existed back when I was a student, especially being an undecided major my freshman year. And I know so many students do come in with a plan, but then you've got students that are also just ready to explore and kind of immerse themselves fully before really determining which path they're going to take.
Well, and sometimes they come in with a plan and they realize that plan maybe isn't the right plan for them.
Yes.
And so through what we do in flight planning, they get the opportunity to visit with career services and go in and do an assessment maybe with Maggie Slack and look at what are some other things that fit my strengths, fit my goals, fit the things that I'm good at. And so we really give them the opportunity to explore and find the best fit for them.
That's amazing. Well, thank you for the work that you do and your whole team. So earlier you kind of alluded to the fact that not everybody takes every single Navigator course. So what are those exceptions? What does that look like?
I'm going to look at my notes just so I give you the exact information. Our students that are in the nursing program, that are in education majors and sonography, they meet the requirements of the last 2 courses through coursework in their major.
Okay.
So they're really doing the same types of things, but they try and meet those requirements in those core courses in their major. Seminarians only take flight planning, so once they finish flight planning, they're finished with the Navigator program. And then some transfer students, depending on the hours that they come in with, and adult and professional studies students generally do not take the Navigator courses.
Okay. And that was going to be one of my additional questions, was for transfer students who come in, do they just typically pick up wherever they would be as far as the courses go for each of their years, sophomore, junior, senior?
Yes, they can.
Okay. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I like the flexibility there. So you've already mentioned a couple concrete examples of events or activities that come with Navigator, like the career fair, being able to resume workshop, but are there any others that we didn't already mention that students really benefit from?
Yeah, there's quite a few. The e-portfolio presentations are really a big deal for those last 2 courses. We have faculty and staff that come over and evaluate those. We also try and bring in some community members to look at those e-portfolios. Those can be great resources while you're job searching or looking for graduate schools. And so that's a really big part of those 2 courses. The job shadowing, I think I mentioned that briefly, but the job shadowing in Liftoff has been a wonderful experience for students because it gives them the opportunity to really learn about their career, learn about a mentor maybe, find a mentor. And so that's a great part of the second course. And then we are really working on building our mentorship program. So I'm going to be meeting with the Alumni Association, and we're going to start talking about how can we build up that mentorship program and look for ways to connect our current students to our former students and community members to find really strong mentors to help our students see the pathway to their goals.
That's amazing. And I love that that's an opportunity for alumni too to kind of share their expertise or maybe give advice where students are really looking to kind of break into whatever field it may be. I think that's wonderful. And how do these, aside from, the perks of possibly landing a dream job, how do these activities and events and really practice, how do they prepare students and build their confidence, just as on a personal level?
Well, I've had a lot of students tell me, I didn't think that I could get up in front of people and really speak, or I didn't think that I could create the kind of goals that I've created. Mm-hmm. And so my hope is that we continue to build on examples like that so that students really can build their efficacy for what they're looking to do and how they want to do it. And I think that that's really the main thing that students get from this, aside from understanding who they are and why they want to do something, but it really builds their ability to see themselves in a different light. And I think a lot of times that's what college is for. How do we see ourselves as we're going forward? And so anything that we can do to help them understand that and to help them understand their own personal missions is going to be really important and valuable.
And I think that kind of ties in with elevator pitches, the theory of, being able to succinctly but confidently share your story in a matter of minutes or even seconds.
Right.
When you happen to be at the right place and right time, or, it's so hard to stand out sometimes in interviews, or if a job is just looking at a batch of resumes, but being able to communicate your story and your why
Yes.
is something that our students are going to be able to do through Navigator. So that's
and
really
that,
wonderful.
like you mentioned, elevator speeches, and that's something in the liftoff class, because
Oh,
that's where
perfect.
we really start honing in on the idea of career. We have them practice an elevator speech. I know that in my class that I taught last semester, I had them both practice it in person with a colleague in class, and then I also had them record an actual video of it where we could go in and critique and look at what was working and what wasn't working in those elevator speeches. So that was a really fun experience.
That would be. And that would, yeah, give them a safe space to kind of work out the
Right.
kinks a little bit before practicing it with, a CEO of a company or
Right.
something. But that's wonderful. So let's talk about how Navigator ensures student success beyond Newman. We've already touched on that a lot, but when it comes to living out a person's mission and being able to maybe pass on what they've learned here at Newman to their career fields, to future students who learn from them, how does Navigator really prepare students to be future mentors in a way?
Well, one of the things that we have in place right now is that students can apply to be peer guides in the flight planning class. And so I have 10 students who, well, actually I had about 15 apply for about 9 or 10 positions this coming semester, and they're going to be working alongside a faculty member in the flight planning class and serving as mentors and kind of a TA position to help support the class, support the content, talk about their experiences, what the program did for them. And so they go through a training coming up in a couple of weeks, and where we will really talk about how do we build relationships, how do we help give advice, what kinds of stories do you want to tell. And so I think all of those things help them as they, or will help them as they go forward in understanding how to sell themselves for
Yeah.
a job, or how to put themselves in a position to really look for a job. And I think even though that's a real formal way of doing this, it really is helpful for other students who maybe decide not to apply to be a peer guide, but they will have had the experience of establishing their own understanding of vocation, their own understanding of mission, and seeing how that aligns with the university's mission, and really being able then to go out into the into the world and explain that, expound upon that, and put themselves a step above everybody else who maybe hasn't had the opportunity to go through a program where you are refining that on a regular basis.
I love that we're incorporating that student lens too, like you talked about, because I think that's valuable relationships that they can build with upperclassmen
Right.
and peers, and maybe learn from them, or like you said, be inspired to become a peer mentor themselves.
Right.
Which is great, because then that just pours right back into the program.
Yes.
So very sustainable method, I would say.
I hope so.
I like
yes.
it. Well, I think we've really covered a lot about Navigator, but is there anything that we haven't talked about that you think our listeners or prospective students should really know?
One of the things that I don't think I really mentioned is our resource fair. The Navigator program sponsors a resource fair, and this year it's going to be on September 17th
Wonderful.
from 9 to 1, and it's in the Dugan Conference Center. And at that event, we are going to have all kinds of resources from across the campus, both academic, to security, to the library, to student success. We're going to have all of those folks available to answer questions, to help students understand how to become a part of the community, how to look for resources within the community. And the flight planning students are required to attend that, but I'm really hopeful that other students on campus will think, wow, maybe I can learn something new,
Yeah.
and go and check that out. We have visits to the library area and the teaching, or the Center for Teaching and Learning, The Student Success Center staff will be available to help people learn how to use academia. And so there's all kinds of resources that are going to be available for that. And so it is sponsored by the Navigator Program, and we really invite not only our flight planning students, but all of our Newman University students to come and join us on that day.
Well, wonderful. It sounds like it'll be a wonderful community festival of sorts.
Yes.
All the things that make Newman special.
Right.
So. Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us today. I feel like I've learned more about Navigator, even just conversing with you, and I'm sure our students will find it more enriching, or maybe appreciate it a little bit more, knowing all the planning that goes into it and really why those outcomes are so important to work towards. So thank you also to our listeners who've been tuning in. You've been listening to the Newman Bond podcast, and we release new episodes every first and third Tuesday of the month. We'll see you next time.